Welcome to episode 24 of Rail Talk. My name is Joe Bianca. I'm an ownership advisor at West Point Thoroughbreds. And we're just a couple days away from the Pegasus World Cup and the Pegasus World Cup Turf, which I believe this year has been renamed the Rail Talk Derby, with my interest in integration, Lauren Carlisle's interest in I'm Very Busy, and then, of course, the great Webslinger, drawn 3, 4, and 5. Hopefully there's no interference to talk about next week.
Jonathan Green, general manager of DJ Stable. And Joe, I am just happy to be back in my basement. I never thought I would say that, but I'm after a 3-week, vacation / trek across the world, or at least across Central Florida. I am back, baby, back in the hub where the magic happens, in the basement, and couldn't be happier to be home.
We're glad to have you back, but we're going to miss those shots of Len ambling around in the background while you're recording the podcast. So we finally have some big racing to talk about. It's the first big weekend, big Saturday of the year coming up this Saturday, January 27th, one day before my birthday, the 28th. And a great birthday present would be for Integration to win the Pegasus World Cup Turf. No offense to our buddies Webslinger and DJ Stable and Lauren Carlisle, and I'm Very Busy. But even from a impartial standpoint, I'm just excited to see what he can do. Like, he's one of the most exciting young turf horses we've had in a long time. This is a big, big step up in class for him. Like, this is not an easy field. Webslinger is obviously a real hard knocker. We have the previous year's winner in a Tone, Masterpiece, and then, of course, Warm Heart, who is the filly, the Aidan O'Brien filly that just missed in the Filly and Mare Turf and then went to Hong Kong and was third in the Hong Kong Vase and is coming back now. I believe this is going to be her career finale before she takes up residence at Coolmore in Kentucky. And she's just, it's one of those Aidan O'Brien superstars that's just globetrotter, shows up every time, multiple Group 1 winners. So I think she's the horse to beat. I think Integration probably is a close second choice in the end, but it's a terrific card. They have 7 graded stakes, obviously the 2 7-figure Grade 1 races. But honestly, even putting our interests aside, like, the turf race to me is more interesting this year than the dirt race. Like, can you name some horses off the top of your head in the Pegasus Dirt? Like, I handicapped it yesterday and I still can name more than a couple of them. It's a function of like Cody's Wish retiring and having no real big standout older dirt males, but then also the way that the Saudi Cup and the Dubai World Cup have cannibalized the Pegasus, which is down to 3 million from the initial 100 million it was when they first started the race. But John, what catches your eye from Pegasus Day?
Well, certainly obviously I put more time into the turf because that's the race that we're, both associated with. And Joe, you and I talk all the time about, are races worthy of their status? Are they worthy of a Grade 2, or should they be downgraded to a Grade 3? Should it be upgraded? Well, this race, in my humble opinion, is a very, very strong kind of poster child for what a Grade 1 should look like. Every single horse except one has won that's entered in the race has won a Grade 2 or better, Joe. I mean, that in itself is a phenomenal feat. You have, you mentioned you have 1, 2, 3, 4, $5 million earners in the race, and Warm Heart, who, if I was just a fan watching the race, didn't have a horse in it, I would be rooting very hard for her because we talk about the horse in the States had to ship from New York to Kentucky and how much it took out of them and everything like that. Warm Heart, in August was in Great Britain. In September was in France. I know that's not a big ship, but then, by the way, in November came to the States all the way to California to run in the Breeders' Cup Turf fillies and mares and just barely lost. And then, just because they had a little time on their hands, flew her to Hong Kong to run against the boys in the Grade 1, and she ran a hard, ridden third in that race, and now she's spinning right back. I mean, she is definitely going to be. When she gets on the plane, she gets in there right after the children, the families with small children and the people who need a little extra time. She has logged that many miles, and it's certainly going to be interesting to see whether or not she can continue her streak of hitting the board in all of these Grade 1s against the boys. Nobody's really talking about King Max, but I think King Max is a sneaky little horse in here as well. The horse that ran, second in the Fort Lauderdale, the Grade 2 on December 30th. I think that's a tough little horse also. But it's going to be fun to watch Integration. It's going to be fun to watch. I'm very busy, because our sponsor, Lauren Carlisle, picked that one out for Chad Brown et al. Obviously, Webslinger, we're very excited about running. But to me, the biggest race, again, because I have a horse in there, but the biggest race of the day is definitely the 12th, which is the Breeders' Cup Turf Invitational.
Pegasus Turf. Yeah, I mean,
sorry, what did I say? Breeders' Cup?
Breeders' Cup Turf.
It feels like a Breeders' Cup race, actually, because it's just a chalk fall. So that was my Freudian slip.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's like, this is the most excited I've been for a start since I started at West Point. Obviously, we had a couple horses in the Breeders' Cup, but like, they weren't short prices like this, and you just don't know how the untapped potential that's there with Integration. So that's what's really exciting is, who knows? Like, maybe he'll get drubbed and run 8th. I hope not. But like, you love seeing those like really, really talented, not yet quite proven horses step up and face a full field of real quality horses. So just as a racing fan, I'm excited to see what he does. The race, I think maybe this plays a little bit more against Webslinger than us, or I'm very busy. Like, I just didn't see how much pace on paper. Main event is the only horse that I figured is going to be hard set for the lead. I feel like everybody else wants to make one run. And Integration being inside, probably Tyler's going to have to use a little bit of speed to get him into a striking position, because I don't think you want to be too far back in this race, putting aside the fact that the Gulfstream turf course generally plays pretty kindly to speed and against deep closers. I don't know, John, how did you see the race from a pace standpoint?
I think you're right about the lack of speed, which normally when you get to these 9-10 furlong races, that's kind of the norm. I think that the fact that Todd Pletcher is putting blinkers on Jerry the Nipper and that he's in the 2-hole, I think they're going to send him. I think he's got natural speed anyway, but certainly being that he's in the 2-hole and is going to inherit the lead, blinkers on, which you normally wouldn't do for a 7-year-old. You normally wouldn't say, okay, I want to change equipment that drastically. But I think that's really what they're doing, is they're trying to make sure that he goes out there, gets the lead, and then can kind of slow the pace down. Warm Heart, you can see can kind of sit off it and certainly has some tactical speed as well. Main Event from the outside, I think they have to send. I think Javier Castellano was going to send that one. Joe, one other thing that I wanted to bring up about the race, now that we've talked about all the good things in the race, is can we talk a little bit about Masterpiece? And the fact that now there's a trainer change again from Richard Dutrow to Sidney Dutrow, who hasn't started a horse since 2015. What's going on there? I
feel like there has to be a thing where like Rick Dutrow doesn't have his license back in Florida. Right. I think that's got to be it. But yeah, I mean, that's another topic for another show. Like the way Rick Dutrow's getting these horses and moving them up again, like. People will argue to death with you and say, "Oh, he's just a great horseman who just knows like how to find the things the other trainers didn't find." Color me skeptical that it's been working that way for him for 15, 20 years. But whatever, until he fails a drug test or something, it's just speculation. But it's just something I've noticed, and it kind of rubs me the wrong way.
Yeah, no, definitely, sure. And something else that I'm sure is rubbing the regular group in racing, the blue bloods and everything like that, which I'm always happy when they get feathers get ruffled. But can we also talk a little bit about Mike Ivorone and the fact that you talk about 9 lives? I mean, here's a guy who, he was associated with a convicted felon for money laundering, Ponzi scheme, wire fraud. His trainer is Richard Dutrow, who then went on a 10-year ban, as the trainer. And look, I know the guy gets a lot of airtime, but does he realize that he's being interviewed because he's a spectacle, not because he's important in racing? I mean, he owned a piece of Big Brown. I'm starting to believe that he really feels like he needs to embody that name based on his fake tan and just the outrageous outfits that he's wearing. He's like P.T. Barnum and MC Hammer without the talent. And I don't understand why so many people are drawn to watching him, other than it's just like a car crash to me. It's like you can't look away because he's just so outrageous and egregious. And again, I'm all for going against the norms and having people feel uncomfortable and breaking new ground and everything like that. But I wonder if he realizes that why he's getting the airtime.
John woke up and chose violence today. I love it. Yeah, I mean, the Big Brown line, that's a great line. I remember, though, like that was like the only time I ever was rooting against a horse to win the Triple Crown.
Right.
You know, like usually that's the feel good story. Everybody rallies around the horse. That was the one year that I was like, I don't know if I want to see this crew of dudes become the first Triple Crown winner in 30 plus years. So yeah, it's a very, very vivid memory of mine, that not being sad when Big Brown was up the track. Obviously a terrific horse still. Yeah, I mean, it's weird, like how many chances people get in this business. Like at least in Dutro's case, like he served his time. Like you can say that. Like
absolutely.
he got the real hammer dropped on him. He served his time, and now he's back. I just don't like that. It seems like the horses are moving up the same way they used to before he was banned. But yeah, sure, maybe he's just an excellent horseman, better than every other trainer in the world. The other thing that I think is indicative.
I sense a hint of sarcasm there.
It's possible. It's
possible.
Anything is possible, as Kevin Garnett would say. Yeah, but the thing that I think emblemizes the strength of this race is Atone. Atone won this race last year at like 7-2. He's going to be 20-something-1 in this race. Now, granted, his form isn't as good as it was going into last year's race, but like even if it was, he still wouldn't be shorter than 10 or 12-1. So this is a phenomenal race, and I think clearly the best running of the turf race so far. Just so we're covering bases here, and we'll touch on the dirt race. There's just really nobody that sticks out. You know, I think First Mission is kind of the horse that I think has the most upside. He was tough beat second in the Clark. He was going to be one of the favorites in the Preakness last year, but he had to scratch in that abysmal Preakness field. And then, I mean, Hoist the Gold, I am a little bit interested in just because West Point employs Dallas Stewart, and I personally like him, and he's done a really good job with him. He's got to go 2 turns. He romped in the Cigar Mile last time out. But yeah, like look through this race and tell me there's one horse that you're like, oh my God, I got to be by my TV to watch the Pegasus Dirt Race. It just has fallen off completely. Thankfully, this year we have in the counterpart a tremendous running of the turf race. Rail Talk is sponsored by the Green Group. The Green Group is the #1 accounting firm in the horse business. There's one reason no other CPA firm knows the industry like they do. You know, Len and DJ Stable, they got a big weekend coming up. They had a big weekend last weekend at Gulfstream in Florida. They own over 200 horses. Len and DJ Stable have won over, you got to be approaching like 2,600 races now. Like this copy has got to be updated soon, right, John?
If you round, for a rounding error, sure, we're going to do that. No, I want to make sure 2,600 is like in a grade 1, so we're gonna play around with that number. Anyway, I digress. Yeah,
well, let's just have a counter, I think, on the show, and we can tick it up as we see more results. But the Green Group's got over 800 clients in the horse business because they make them money and save them taxes. And we got a special offer just for listeners of Rail Talk. Len's offering a complimentary and confidential half-hour consultation. He guarantees he'll get you value. Call him at 732-634-5100. Do it soon. He'll prove that he can save you taxes. He guarantees it, unequivocally guarantees it. He'll donate to your favorite charity or whatever you want. If you can't, he's not worried. He's always found value. He knows he can do it with you. And shout out to Len. I miss seeing him in the background of our podcast, but I'm sure I'll see him soon down in Ocala. And yeah, we only get less than 3 months till tax day. So hit them up, hit the Green Group up. They'll save you taxes for sure.
Joe, I got to tell you a quick anecdote. So we were down in Ocala at the OBS shareholders meeting, and there were 80, 90 people there. And beforehand, you could grab a sandwich, grab a drink, and then go sit down in the main auditorium and wait for the for the announcements and the news. And Len started talking to one of his clients, and before I knew it, like 20 minutes had gone by, and there was like a receiving line of people that were waiting to talk to him about, hey, what about this? Hey, I heard that they're getting rid of bonus depreciation 100%. What do we need to do? And it was as a son, it was really inspiring for me. It was really exciting. But I'm telling you that Len knows his shit. I mean, I don't have to say that to people who are in the know that use him. But case in point, a lot of the shareholders that were there at OBS were asking him questions and getting insight from him. So if those individuals are clients, then he must really know what he's doing.
I thought we were going to talk a lot more about Bob Baffert on this show because we talked a lot about him on the old show because he was always in the news. And it's just been very refreshing not to have to talk about him all the time and just have fun and talk about other things that interest us and piss us off. But Baffert, elbowed his way into the news this week because he and Amr Zidane have decided to drop their appeal, finally, at long last, of the Medina Spirit DQ in, what was that, the 2021 Derby? Yeah, so we're coming up on 3 years now, almost since when that happened. And I think a lot of people just assume that this is kind of a desperation ploy by Baffert and Zidane to try to get Churchill to drop their ban of him and his horses going into the Kentucky Derby. And at least for now, it seems like it hasn't worked. I'm just going to read the Baffert quote. It says, he posted this on Twitter. It says, "I've instructed my attorneys to dismiss the appeal related to the disqualification of Medina Spirit in the 2021 Kentucky Derby. Zidane Racing owner Amr Zidane and I have decided that it is best to positively focus on the present and future that our great sport offers. We thank the KHRC and Churchill Downs for listening and considering our point of view, and we're grateful for the changes and clarity that HISA brings to the sport." Churchill, in response, Darren Rogers wrote, "Today's dismissal of appeal does not change the current suspension or deadline to transfer horses for the upcoming 150th Kentucky Derby." So doesn't seem, at least right now, like if it is a ploy to get reinstated, that's going to work. I just, and I'm glad that they're finally going to put this behind them. But like, this is what should have happened 3 years ago. Like the fact that 3 years later, as if it just popped into their head, like, oh man, we want to focus on the positive things in the sport. Let's forget the last 3 years of hand wringing and drawing this out to try to get an appeal approved. Like, but Bob Baffert's problem to me in the first place was not necessarily the drug positive, as damning as that was in the public sphere. To me, in racing, what pissed people off and what rubbed me the wrong way was the media tour insisting that it was never his fault, that no responsibility should fall on him, pass the buck to anywhere else but him. To me, that was the biggest problem with the whole Medina Spirit thing. So the idea that after 3 years of that, now he's just going to suddenly drop it and, move forward in the interest of the sport, like, you should have done that years ago. There was no reason to drag this out and make it such a public fight other than ego. And, hopefully we can move forward.
And Joe, I think you're right. And look, I'm glad that they finally woke up and realized that they weren't going to, win this fight. They weren't going to win this fight in court, nor were they going to win it in the court of public opinion. Quite frankly, they were up against it on both sides. So it's good that they dropped it. I don't know if I would give them credit or negativity towards him dropping it now versus earlier, or not having it in place at all. I think they were going through the legal process. I think finally they realized that they were up against it, and they decided to pull the plug. Some people on Twitter are saying, this is why he's the GOAT, because he, is doing what's good for the sport. I think that's bullshit, and you're rolling your eyes. It was never about, was it good for the sport? It's always about, is it good for Zidane and for Baffert. I thought it was the first, when I very first read it, you and I were texting back and forth, and I think within the first 5 seconds, you and I said, oh, this is definitely a last ditch hope to try to get him, reinstated with Churchill Downs, because, oh, by the way, the 29th is the date when those horses of his have to be in somebody else's barn, training under somebody else's name if they want to be eligible for the Kentucky Derby. So to me, it was like, this is a Hail Mary there, or maybe they worked something out with Churchill Downs and they said, look, if we drop this and we play nice, then you'll allow me to have horses entered in the Kentucky Derby. That's because I'm cynical. That's immediately what went through my mind. The other cynical part of the story, Joe, for me, is that if you read online, if you go to the Blood Horse and Pollock and TDN, and you read the article, now it's the same set of facts. It's the same set of facts, the same press release, same information, but you have two egregiously different slants on what it means and whether or not, Bob was guilty of an infraction, or if he was, really guilty of a drug overage, and, whether or not he should be, raked over the coals for all these years, and that Churchill Downs is using this as a vendetta. To me, it amazes me that the journalism in America, and this isn't a story by any stretch, but it's even infected our industry, where it's very slanted and polarizing. The coverage of something as innocent or I shouldn't say innocent, as simple, because obviously he wasn't innocent, as simple as like, hey, he's dropping, the case and doesn't want to appeal this anymore and just kind of wants it to be, behind him. Those are the facts of the story. And then the way that's portrayed by the various news circuits in our industry are vastly different. And I think that anyone who's reading between the lines can see which of the writers get their bread buttered by the big farms and by association, by Bob Baffert. So I'm going to leave it at that. You can we have a very intelligent audience. You guys can read the articles and come to a conclusion. But I think if you look at it, they're written through very different lenses.
Well, and it's just, he's such a polarizing guy to begin with. Like, if you go on Twitter, it's always like Baffert is the most evil guy in the world, or Baffert is the greatest of all time, and everyone's just jealous. Like, there's no room for nuance in that discussion. And I think he made racing look bad for a while with this thing. And he could have dropped it a lot sooner. And, I can see both sides of it, because I think Churchill is also being pretty vindictive.
No
question. We
question.
talked about this on the first episode of Rail Talk. I think that the continued ban of him seems petty. And I think, reasonable people would assume that it's because he was dragging this through the courts and fighting them tooth and nail on a drug positive from almost 3 years ago. And that's why they responded in the way they did, banning him for the next several derbies. So I honestly, next year, I don't want to hear about this shit anymore. I don't want to hear about Baffert or Medina Spirit or Churchill Downs or bans or this and that. Just let the guy run. And Bob, if something happens, if there's a drug positive or like a DQ or something you don't agree with, take it with some fucking grace, please. This was the problem to begin with, was the constant caterwauling about how he's been wronged. And, this is a minute positive and it didn't affect this. And it was from an ointment. It was so many explanations instead of just saying, look, the horse tested positive. It's on me. I'm the absolute insurer. I apologize. We'll move forward from this. That's all that had to be done in the first place. And here we are, January 2024, still talking about it, hopefully for the last time. I just wanted to transition from that, because you want to talk about things that took a long time to adjudicate. There's some breaking news as we came on today, that the Jockey Club of Saudi Arabia is finally about ready, sort of, almost, kind of thinking about taking some steps to disqualify maximum security from a race that happened 4 years ago. 4 years ago, Maximum Security won the inaugural running of the Saudi Cup. And then soon after that, obviously, the revelations of the Jason Service wiretaps and doping bust came out. And there was this discussion of whether or not they were going to DQ Maximum Security and put up Midnight Bizou, who ran second in that race. I had to go back and look at how long ago this happened, and just think of all the things that have happened in the meantime. The story broke, COVID, the pandemic came and went. Jason Service went to trial. First, he was gonna fight the case. Then he decided to take a plea deal. Then he got his sentence, his 5-year sentence. Jorge Navarro got sentenced. The entire FBI indictments have wrapped up and been adjudicated with all sorts, I think, dozens of convictions. And now the Jockey Club of Saudi Arabia decides I think they're almost ready to rule. What were we waiting for all this time, guys? I mean, it was tricky. I'll give him this. It was tricky in the sense that he didn't fail a drug test in that race. In terms of the actual running of the race, there was nothing really to report and nothing that was untoward that was going on, at least as far as we know. But if you're going to make this decision based on the news that happened 4 years ago, why? I always think it's like American racing that takes forever and drags their feet on these things like that. But no, apparently it's a worldwide issue that we can't adjudicate obvious things seemingly within years. But here we are. It seems like Jeff Bloom's about to get a call and say, hey, you won a race from 4 years ago. Did you know that?
Right. And Joe, I didn't even realize, shame on me, I didn't realize that Saudi Arabia had a jockey club. I thought it was just the main man was there and he was, like Caesar, you want to, that type of deal. So I wonder if having this announcement, if it ultimately shuts the door on, having to release the winning purse money to Maximum Security and to the West at all. I don't know if that's the real reason, because quite frankly, even if they got sued in American court, I think they would just disregard it because they don't have to abide by those rules. But it's what we've been talking about this for 4 or 5 years now, as long as we've been doing podcasts together, is the fact that we DJ Stable won't send horses to Saudi Arabia because they basically can say, we don't like you, Green, because of what you just said about Big Brown, and we're not gonna give you the purse money. And you know what? I would have no way of fighting it. Like there's nothing you can do. There's no governing body really there other than the Sultan that rules the roost there. So to me, it was like you didn't have any other options. If they tell you that your horse is going to be disqualified from any purse money, then you have to accept that. So yeah, I don't know if that's why they finally announced it, or if they just had to close the door to make it window dressing and look good. To me, it was much ado about nothing. If they had never announced this, I think we're 3, 4, 5 years past that point now, and it's like, who cares?
I got to say, I've said my piece about Gary West over the years employing Jason Service and then acting like he had no idea what was going on. But I will say, back in December 2022, this is over a year ago, when they were assuming that the horse was going to be DQ'd, he did take responsibility, sort of. He said, we believe in the justice system and have patiently waited for the legal prosecution to take its course. Now that Jason Service has entered a guilty plea, we want to make it clear that if the Saudi Cup decides to redistribute the purse, we would support that decision. Hopefully that action will prevent future conduct of this nature. We believe the decision to take the Saudi Cup purse from Maximum Security and redistribute it is the correct one. Never mind that you were enabling that kind of conduct in the past, but I do appreciate that he was willing to say, look, if the horse broke the rules, take the money away, totally understand. Bob Baffert could have learned from that about 3 years ago.
Well, no, you're absolutely right, and we've bashed owners on this show before, and I think you're right. That does need to be said. That that maybe it's a little too late, but the timing of it doesn't really matter. The point of the matter is that they recognized, hey, if our horse is disqualified for a medical reason, then, like you said, we are the ultimate insurer. We are the ones who have to take the brunt of the blame, because God knows if that horse won, a lot of owners grab the reins, and the bridle and walk that horse in with all pride and as well they should, because they own the horse. I shouldn't say as well they should. I personally don't like it when you take the reins away from the groom, but that's a whole other therapy session. But I'm glad to see that the West did say, you know what, if that's the rule, then we're abiding by it, and let's all move forward. Because then at least they owned it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And maybe by the next presidential election year, they'll actually redistribute the purse. We'll see.
Plus interest? Are they going to plus interest?
Rail Talk is sponsored by Fasig-Tipton. Lots of action coming up for Fasig-Tipton to warm you up this winter. We got the Kentucky Winter Mix Sale, which is February 5th and 6th in Lexington. We've talked about the digital sales. They basically have one every month. They go for about 5 days. Very easy to nominate, very easy to buy, and just redirect the horse to a new barn. Don't have to interrupt their training or anything. Fasig is at the forefront of all the digital sales. And a special opportunity coming up in the next couple of weeks. Unfortunately, we lost Bob Lothenbach, who was a great supporter of the game for decades. Had great mares, generations worth of mares, and was just a great competitor in the sport. Unfortunately passed away, and his stock is going to be dispersed by the estate. So over the next 3 weeks, we've got 75 plus horses of racing age, 65 fillies, mares, and yearlings. So the horses of racing age are going to be dispersed on the Fasig digital platform starting next Monday, January 29th through next Friday, February 2nd. As I said, over 75 horses. You can go on the Fasig website and see past performances and all sorts of additional info to get involved there. And then the dispersal of the breeding stock and the yearlings is going to happen at a physical sale, which is the Kentucky Winter Mix Sale, February 5th and 6th. 65 fillies, mares, and yearlings. You can go on the Fasig website and see all the pedigrees and all the info. So really unfortunate that we lost Bob Lothenbach. At the same time, it's a special opportunity for people to buy into some really great families and do it through Fasig-Tipton. They're going to be thorough in terms of inspection and selling, and it's going to be smooth as can be. So go check out the Fasig website and look at all the past performances and pedigrees of those horses and get involved for sure, because this is a unique opportunity to get into a really good family. So we're so excited to welcome this next guest to the Rail Talk studio. He's the marketing manager for America's Best Racing, one of my favorite Twitter follows, that Anonymous man. Dan Tordjman, welcome to the show.
What's up, guys? Great to see you. I'm thrilled to be on.
Oh, so glad to have you. You know, we've known each other a little bit through the Twitter spheres over time, and we've gotten to know each other a little bit more through the West Point ABR partnership. But we wanted to have you on this show, not only because you're a great dude, but because I think you're one of the foremost experts of marketing horse racing. And that's something we talk about a lot on this show. We talk about it kind of in generalities. You and America's Best Racing are on the forefront, on the front lines of trying to market the sport, trying to bring new people into the game. So I guess my first question is just a general question. Over your years at ABR, has there been things, have there been themes that you found that work, that don't work? Like, what are just some of the general takeaways you've gotten from that experience?
Yeah, it's a great question to start with. I mean, because we as ABR have evolved over the past decade plus, and it's crazy that it's been this long. And we're very proud of the fact that we've not only lasted this long, but we've grown year after year, and we've had to evolve. I think initially, for anyone who remembers, it was a group of early 20-something kids on an RV, kind of traveling from track to track and trying to literally like hand out tickets for people to come to the racetrack. A cool concept and, fun and attention grabbing, but I think we've become a lot more strategic with the way we do our marketing. We really have leaned into the power of digital media and social media marketing. And, we sit here now, over a decade later with 400,000 plus people who follow us on social media across our channels, which is a number that's very important to us because we know for the audience we're trying to reach, and that's the next generation of racing fan and bettor and participant, that's where we can reach them on social media, and namely like emerging social media platforms like Instagram, like TikTok. And I think at this very moment, we're one of the very few people, one of the very few groups in racing who are actively doing that. And so, the balance for us and kind of learnings and key takeaways to answer your question is that we've realized that, we at some point we're going to miss the existing racing fan, and we just have to live with that. We want to market constantly to the current fan because we do create a lot of good content for them, and we know we can, but we also have to utilize and kind of spend some of that energy reaching new audience. And so kind of coming to grips with that and knowing that, hey, some people might not know about everything we're doing, but that's by design because we're not marketing to existing fans as much as some people might like us to do.
Right. And with all the different current campaigns and programs that you guys have in place, and they're voluminous. I mean, it's great as far as what you're promoting. You've gone, like you said, you've gone from guerrilla marketing to digital media marketing. Is there one program specifically that's like your baby you love and you really feel like is making the biggest impact on potential new audience members?
So, even within the past couple of years, I think my answer would have changed from year to year. Now, if you asked me in 2021, 2022, I would have said our live streaming. Our live streaming is something that really grew out of the pandemic. We had already started experimenting with it because we realized that we could show up in people's timelines and, when they were on YouTube, and we could actually, target streams to certain audiences. We thought that was a great opportunity to take people to the track, give them behind the scenes access, and show them the world of racing, whether they were an existing fan and couldn't get there, or they were a person who didn't know about it, who might click on it and say, wow, that looks actually pretty cool. I'd like to do that. So I think if you would ask me like a year or a year and a half ago, I would have said that. But a lot of times now we find when people see us in those spaces, I think they're looking for something more. And for us, it started to feel a little stale. So we're like, how do we innovate? How do we change? So we developed this program that you alluded to a little bit earlier, which is the Stake and Stardom program. And that really speaks to our influencer program. We've been doing influencer marketing pretty much since our inception. But what that means is that we work with people who are not currently in racing and have a very large following and dedicated audiences. And we bring them to the races and we have them share that experience with their audience. And we find we get more bang for our buck that way. We have, annually, we kind of reach, last year, I think we were over 6.5 million video views on the channels of influencers, reaching people who are not currently racing fans. And the program that we're, I think, proudest of at the moment is the Stake and Stardom program, which won an award last year. in terms of it being an innovative influencer campaign. We work with ownership groups. West Point Thoroughbreds, I think, being the most is sort of well known of the groups, and they give an ownership share to influencers and sort of a range of celebrities that we work with, so that they can share the journey of and the experience of horse ownership with their audience, which is a completely different thing than, hey, watch me go to the races and have a cocktail, right? So we really are trying to tap into various interest groups. And some of the people we've worked with over the past couple of years include Ian Rappaport, who I'm sure a lot of your listeners are familiar with, Lindsay Zarniak, another sports journalist, and Joy Taylor as well out in California. So we've kind of tried strategically to find influencers in various parts of the country with different kinds of audiences who might be, in some ways interested in exploring racing a bit more by seeing some of their favorite personalities posting about, hey, this is what it's like to own a racehorse. How cool is this?
Yeah. Well, and I think to me, the challenge is the next step after that, because I think it's great to have people hooked in and, have influencers show the beauty and the excitement of the sport that we all intrinsically get. But if someone does see that and they're interested and intrigued, like, what would you want their next step to be? To reach out to you, to reach out to the influencers? Like, where do you think you go from there?
Yeah, look, I think when it comes to marketing and racing, we're fighting two battles, and they're each on their own separate track, no pun intended. And the one is marketing within the sport, and then there's the marketing outside the sport. So when it comes to marketing outside the sport, I'm thinking of a lot of the content we post to TikTok and Instagram, which is really just fun, whimsical content that we know will show up for people who are not currently fans. Some of the articles that we write, and we try to, direct to people who are not already racing fans. And then when I think of within racing, I think there's a lot of work to be done there. And I think that's where we stand to benefit the most by creating more partnerships, and we want to work with everyone. We currently have dozens of partnerships with racetracks, with organizations, including the NTRA, which, I'm currently here in South Florida covering the Eclipse Awards. We have a partnership with First Racing. We're going to be at the Pegasus World Cup this weekend, really kind of producing dynamic media to a range of audiences. And so we want more partners like them. So if anyone's watching this within the industry, yes, you could reach out to me, Dan Tordjman at America's Best Racing. I'll share my Anonymous Man actually on Twitter is probably the best way to reach me, the quickest way to get a response. But you can certainly contact the show, and I'm happy to share my cell phone number, whatever. Reach out to me. I want to hear from you. And I think the way our social media channels are set up, for people who are new to the sport, there are very easy access points to contact us and reach us for more information and to become more active in the sport. But yeah. My big call out here is to anyone within racing who feels like, hey, you've got something that's unique and cool that would be attractive to a new fan or a new bettor. Reach out to me. Absolutely, we'd love to work with you.
Gotcha. No, that's great. And Dan, we'll put all your contact information below, so that way our fans and listeners can get in touch with you and pepper you with ideas as well. How do you guys measure your success? Is it annual goals or specific targets? Because I would think that marketing is kind of, nebulous and it's tough to quantify. So how do you guys, sit down every year or sit down every quarter and say, we're successful because of blank?
Yeah, in terms of our digital media and social media, sort of goals that we set every year, we look to outdo the previous year. One challenge that we've run into in the past couple of years is that, and I don't know how many people watching know this, but we are entirely funded by the Jockey Club, and we do not have a traditional business model. So we do not generate revenue by selling a specific product or service, right? So the Jockey Club is funding us because they believe in the work, because it believes in the work that we do. Now, one issue that we run into is that, coming out of COVID, obviously everyone's budget got tighter across racing. And so what that meant for us, in practical terms, is that a lot of the stuff we created, we were not able to put money behind in paid media. So we could put it out and hope that people would see it organically and say, hey, that's great. Like, look what ABR did here, or look at this cool horse racing thing. But we weren't able to utilize some of the tools we have and that we've developed over the years to reach new audience as effectively with paid media. And look, money talks, right? Like, you look at the budgets other industries to put into advertising and paid media. And it obviously dwarfs ours, by tens of billions of dollars. So we're not even in the same range. What we'd like to do, and what we've actually reached out to several industry participants to join us in, is a national marketing program in which we can pool resources, create the content, which we're already creating, and we can sort of customize it, per the needs of each geographical market or each particular racetrack or whatever it might be. And then we put that money into strategic paid campaigns throughout the country. And now we're getting somewhere. So I think, what I'm saying in short here is that we have reached a point where we're reaching about as many people as we can reach organically. Mm-hmm. And the next frontier for us, where we'd like to get, is doubling and tripling our reach, the number of video views we get, the engagements we get on our posts, by investing in paid media. So that's something we'd like to do in terms of setting, kind of raising the bar as we move forward.
No doubt. I mean, marketing is one step of it too. And I think the other step of it, and I mentioned in the beginning, is managing and confronting public perception. Because let's be real, racing doesn't always have a great public perception amongst the general public. Like we saw the 60 Minutes piece. Like there's a lot of negative kind of attack. And I'm not gonna say attacks, but negative press out there for us as an industry. Is that something that you've confronted along the way in doing these marketing campaigns? Like, and if so, how do you respond to that?
Yeah, I think that there is a ton of work to be done on that front. We approach everything we do with the idea that we ourselves as a unit at ABR, 10 people, can't respond to all those questions. And what our primary goal is to market. We see a distinction between marketing and PR, and we do think that there is a PR void, and we would love to see one unified PR voice in racing. And we also, would like to make the distinction that, although we understand that, there are a lot of people who come to me even, and they say, why aren't you coming out and saying something? I'm like, I don't want to jumble this any more than it is, right? The last thing racing needs is another voice, throwing out, a proposed solution as they, lay in bed at night on their Twitter account, right? So while all that is good and ideas and debate and public debate on social media platforms is great for all of us who care about it, we all want to participate in those conversations. But in terms of what we project out, we do need to focus on a unified public relations campaign and getting one voice who can speak. And who can speak to a broad audience, not just to people in racing. So I think that's where I'm personally at it. I think, I could say America's Best Racing is there. We want to focus on marketing. We want to engage with that next generation of fan. If the PR is there, our job is a lot easier. If clear messaging is out there, and if we're, disrupting some of the myths that are out there, our job becomes a lot easier. So we could use some help in that sense. And, I really do wish we can come together. And I think that there's probably more momentum now than there's ever been for there to be, sort of one unified voice as it relates to us, doing PR as an entity and as a sport.
Right. No, excellent. That's a great point. All right, Dan, you're czar of racing for a day. I won't say commissioner because apparently there's already been a self-proclaimed commissioner. So you're czar for the day. What problem do you attack first? And how do we solve it?
My biggest focus at the moment is diversity. I think that we have been speaking to the same people for generations now, and we continue to market to them. We continue to try to bring them in as new owners, as participants, across every spectrum of the sport. And so for me, I think, and it's reflected, I think, in a lot of the media that we do, we need to, sort of representation is a key thing for me. And so I think we need to bring people from different backgrounds, ethnicities, race. We need to showcase and tell the stories of women in the sport better. We need to bring more women into the sport. We need to cross over into the broader equestrian world and kind of break down some of those barriers that are there and some of the fears folks in that world have about horse racing. And we really just need to to bring more people into the fold. You look at our sport, you go to a race on any given day, the people attending look fairly similar. The people who are in the winner's circle look pretty much the same. Why is that? I mean, are there no Black women who are interested in owning racehorses? Are there no, Asian men who want to come out to the track? Like what's going on? Like, clearly we're just not speaking to people. And I'd like to see, I think, as you bring more people into the fold and you let them know that there's a place for them in this sport, I think everything grows. You start to see handle grow. You start to see, different people in the winner's circle and in the paddock and that sort of thing. So for me, diversity is a massive issue. And I think, we've gotten to the point where we've just become used to talking to the same people and seeing the same people. So we've forgotten that that's an issue at all.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's crucial. And it's still a little bit of a tangent, but I feel like diversity has become a bad word in the culture wars recently. But if there's one sport that I think we could all agree needs it, it's horse racing. Maybe that and golf. Those are the two sports I would think of.
Yeah. And it's, and I know there are a lot of people I think about, who'll probably watch this on racing Twitter and be like, oh, look at this idiot. If he could do one thing, diversity is his issue. And all I could say is that, if you listen to the point I made about, the end goal being, raising handle, bringing more owners into the sport, bringing more people who want to participate in the sport. At the end of the day, we're just growing the pool of people that are in this. And that's a good thing. You can't just solve, sort of an end issue. You've got to work on sort of the bigger issue. And so that's kind of where I'm going with it. But believe me, I'd love to see lower takeout. I'd love to see all these things. And I came to this sport as a gambler first and foremost. I am still a bettor and I love betting on horse racing. Some people don't like me for this. That's my favorite part. I love being at the track and firing. That's what I love doing. I love the horses. I love the stories, but I love firing. I love hitting a ticket. So, believe me, to the bettors out there, I see it. I feel it. I'm impacted by it, and I want those things to get better for all of us. But I do think, sort of, on a larger level, there are issues that would just naturally help in kind of resolving some of the issues that we deal with on a day-to-day basis.
Well, hope to hang with you at the track soon. We'll put together a pick 5 or pick 4 ticket. But in the meantime, keep doing what you're doing. We need big picture people like you and America's Best Racing to help solve some of these larger problems that racing has. Dan Tordjman, thank you so much for coming on the show, my man. I
appreciate both of you. Good luck this weekend.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
Rail Talk is sponsored by TaylorMade Sales and TaylorMade Stallions. As I said, the Stallion Farm is just growing and improving every single year with TaylorMade. Go check out their website and all the Stallion roster and all the info. But as I mentioned earlier, in the Lothenbach stable dispersal, TaylorMade is going to be handling some of that, John, correct?
Yeah, they're handling the majority of it, Joe. They're going to be managing and consigning, I think, everything except for the breeding stock. So all the horses that are in training right now, all the race horses, some of the short yearlings. And Joe, the amazing thing about it is a lot of these are Minnesota bred. So you feel, okay, maybe they're not as well bred. Not so fast. There's War Fronts, there's American Pharaohs, there's More Than Readies. I mean, there are some well-bred horses. And Lothenbach had the female family of Bodemeister. So there's a lot of really well-bred horses that are going to be going through the ring, predominantly through TaylorMade. And I would definitely go either on the TaylorMade website or on the Fasig website to see exactly which horses they're representing and give them a call, because they are going to. One thing I know about TaylorMade is that they're going to know these horses inside and out. They're going to know whether a horse is a cribber, whether the horse is a bleeder, whether the horse needs to have a goat in the stall. I mean, they are that detail oriented where they're going to be able to give you the skinny on everything that they're representing for the Lothenbachs and for the other clients.
In addition to Pegasus Day, there's more to look forward to this weekend. And this week, this will be a nice little palate cleanser after the Baffert in Saudi Arabia segment. We got the Eclipse Awards coming up on Thursday night at 7:30 p.m. And you can watch it on FanDuel TV. I think it'll be streamed as well online on most of the major journalistic websites, and as well as NTRA. There's not a ton of drama in terms of different categories. horse of the year, I think, has got to be Cody's Wish. I just, it wouldn't make any sense to have it otherwise. Like, I get that you don't want to necessarily, factor in like the emotional story aspect of it. You kind of just want it to be pure based on racetrack accomplishment. But he was pretty damn accomplished, and the story does not hurt. Like, he's been the chief horse in America since Flightline retired, and I think he's going to be a deserving champion. The only one that I thought looked a little interesting was 3-year-old male. The finalists are Arcangelo, Auguste Rodin, and Mage. Now, I think Arcangelo is most likely the favorite because you got the Belmont Travers double. Not a lot of horses have done that. But he didn't make it to the Breeders' Cup and is now retired. And he's got the Kentucky Derby winner in the category. But also, I think Auguste Rodin is interesting because, you don't often see Euros win in these categories. But if they're brilliant enough, it can happen. And I just think like his race in the Breeders' Cup Turf was just so damn impressive. And if you want to talk about like pound for pound, who was the best 3-year-old male who ran in America this year? I think he's the one. And that's no disrespect to Arcangelo and the kind of season he had with Jenna Antonucci. Obviously not their fault that he wasn't able to make it to the Breeders' Cup. But if you want to talk about pure brilliance, I think the winner is Auguste Rodin. John,
and Joe, just to piggyback.
Yeah,
just to piggyback on that, I think out of the three, and I didn't have a chance to look this up, but I think out of the three, Auguste Rodin was the only one who won a Grade 1 against older horses. I think the other two, granted they won 2 out of the 3 Triple Crown jewels and a couple other big races during the summertime. But to me, by the end of the year, the best 3-year-old that ran in the United States was Auguste Rodin. There's no question in my mind. People can say, well, he only ran here, a lot, or ran here once. He only ran here a lot less than the other two. And Arcangelo, had that double that you mentioned, and Mage was a Kentucky Derby winner. But at the end of the year, at least, they weren't the ones standing like Auguste Rodin. And I think just by human nature, we look at, well, what have you done for me lately? What was the last thing that you did? And that's going to be the most important, or carry the most weight when it comes to your resume. And if that's the case, I think for the first time in a long time, a European wins an open event, not just a turf eclipse, but an actual straight 3-year-old male eclipse. The only other one that I thought was interesting, and this is just on a personal note, was the apprentice jockey. And that's because Sofia Vives, who rides for a lot of people up in Canada, but also at Fort Erie and then at Parks. She is actually one of the winter exercise riders at Mark Cassie's place. And last week when we were down there, I got a chance to sit down and really talk to her. And she's an intelligent person. She gets it. She's got a sense of humor. She's very humble, even though she won all those races. And Joe, I don't know if you realize, like a lot of people commute, for their regular week of work. What Sophia was doing was she was actually riding in Canada 3 days, driving to Fort Erie for 1 day, and then driving to Parks for 2 days, and then rinse and repeat and starting over again in Toronto. And she did that all summer long. So to me, it wasn't just a matter of her winning races, in Canada and in the States. It's that she was really working hard to make sure that she got as many mounts and just got the her apprenticeship value as to the nth degree. And I'm sure that Concepcion and Torres worked really hard also. I'm not taking it away from them, but just knowing Sophia, I was really impressed with her as an individual. And she rode some horses for us and was able to be equally adept at rushing to the front and winning on the front end and weaving through traffic and getting up there on come from behind horses. She's talented. She's humble. She's a good face for racing as well. And I would just like to see her get recognized. I'm glad she's on the ballot as one of the top 3. I don't know if she's going to win, but she's definitely a name to watch and definitely a rider with some talent. And I'm hoping that years from now, we're going to be comparing her to like Julie Crone as one of the top riders in our history, not to mention one of the top female riders.
Yeah, we haven't had like a really great female rider breakthrough, I think, since Rosita Pravnik was the last one. And then obviously Julie Crone was a legend. So yeah, it'd be nice to see some young women step up and become part of these top jockey colonies. And she sounds like she's plenty deserving. Yeah, it's not a life for the faint of heart, the life of a jockey. Like it is hard work. And yeah, some of them are really well off and multimillionaires, but most of them are hustling. You know, they're just getting up early, trying to make weight, riding as many horses as they can, sometimes in terrible weather. Like it is not an easy life. And I got a lot of respect for anybody who dedicates themselves and their bodies, particularly to pursuing that life. We do have
Joe, can I talk about one more? Actually, just going through. So I want your opinion on trainer, on the trainer of the year. Who's going to win between Chad Brown, Brad Cox, and Billy Mott?
To me, I think that this was Bill Mott's year. You know, with all the success from Cody's Wish and Elite Power. He had a bunch of other ones I can't think of off the top of my head, but he just showed up in the winner's circle of so many big races this year. Obviously, Chad and Brad Cox both had their successes as well. But I just think also, like, relative to the number of horses he has, not that Bill Mott is like a mom and pop stable, but like comparatively to Chad Brown and Brad Cox, he's got a lot fewer horses. And for him to do what he did and win as many big races as he did this past year, I would give it to him.
Yeah. And I don't know Bill at all. I mean, I know him from passing and maybe occasionally saying hello. But during I got one little quick anecdote. During the Breeders' Cup, his filly, just FYI, won the juvenile filly Breeders' Cup. And we're standing. I was giving the trophy presentation, as representative of the Breeders' Cup, and we're standing there and we're waiting for the commercial break to end, NBC's commercial break to end, and I happen to be standing next to Bill Mott, and he leans over to me and he says, "Do you know how long this is going to take?" And I said, "Well, I think it's just going to be like 2 minutes once we get back on the air." And he said, "Okay, because I'm saddling a horse in the next race, and I want to get there." So, we're waiting for the commercial, and finally it dawns on me, and I turned to him and I said, "Bill, you won this race. Like, you should revel in it." And I'll never forget what he said to me. I'm not going to say it verbatim, but basically he was like, "Yeah, but I need to represent that next horse just as well as I did this horse." And to me as an owner, that meant the world to me. I mean, he was standing there, getting ready to accept the trophy for his 2-year-old filly, just FYI. And he had it in the back of his mind, I need to represent the owners in the next race just as well as I did in this race. And I looked at the program, his horse was 20-1 in the next race. It wasn't like he had the 3-5 favorite where he needed to be there. So, to me, he's a humble guy. He was a person that was willing to walk away from the spotlight. I mean, how many trainers or owners, for that matter, would that would eschew getting a trophy on national television in front of your peers because you had to saddle a 20 or 30-1 shot in the next race? It showed me a lot, just in that little interaction, that he's a quality guy. I mean, in that moment, he showed me personally, just what it meant to be in charge of a racing stable. And he's not a guy who's just going to be like a program trainer or just standing there and letting other people do the dirty work. He wanted to make sure that his owners in the next race got the same experience that the people did in the juvenile filly race. So again, I don't know if he's going to win, but just that small, brief moment with him showed me a lot about his character, and I was impressed.
Yeah, and he's a horseman through and through. Like, he's one of those guys. He's one of those guys that like used to bug me a little bit when I was like full-time media, because he never wants to talk, never wants to give a quote. Like, he's not like a bad guy. He's not like standoffish or anything. He's just like he doesn't seek out the limelight or the media the way that some people in this industry do.
Right.
So yeah, I always, even if it bugged me as a writer, like I always respected that. Like, he's just about the horses. Like, he just wants to train the horses and do his thing. And yeah, he's going to train 3 champions: Elite Power, Cody's Wish, just FYI, are all going to be champions. I don't think the other guys have trained 3 champions this year, so I think he deserves it. Speaking of deserving winners of Eclipse Awards, we are super proud and super excited for our editors, Anthony LaRocca, Aaliyah LaRocca, and Nathan Wilkinson, and our producer, Patty Wolf, for their Eclipse Award for the TDN piece on the writer's room with Wade Yost, who is the father of Carson Yost, who's the namesake of Carson's Run, the West Point horse who ran in the Breeders' Cup. You can go back and watch that story or read that story. Basically, Carson has like a degenerative muscular condition, and Wade always wanted to name a horse after him. So West Point put that name on this horse, and he turned out to be a grade 1 winner. Like, it's just, you can't make that up. Anthony in particular does an incredible job organizing all of the edits, and he's like, the wind beneath our wings on this show. Like, it would not exist without Anthony and the editors and Patty. So we're super, super proud of them and excited for them. So Thursday night, they're going to get dressed to the nines, go down to the Eclipse Awards, and enjoy being honored the way they should. And I think Anthony in particular has worked on 3 straight Eclipse Awards now for TDN. He worked on mine, and I think he worked on Christy DiBernardis's one as well. Patty did, and the rest of the other editors did a great job as well. But yeah, we're really happy for them and excited for them. So yeah, no matter what, it's going to be a good night on Thursday for the Eclipse Awards, because we got our family going up there to receive one of the trophies.
I think it's safe to say that Anthony is like our Bill Mott, and Patty is like our Mike Ivorone.
We have to take it there.
Congratulations, guys. We're very proud of you.
Yeah. Keep doing the kick-ass work you're doing. We love you guys. One more bit of happy, exciting news to touch on before we wrap here. Jon Green was down in Ocala, as you saw last week from his disheveled hotel room appearance on the show. But he actually made himself useful and went to Mark Cassie's training center and got some video of the Rail Talk house horses. So we're going to pipe that video in right now. I think first we have a burner account and Change It Jamaica working in company. So shout out to Steph, already battling on the racetrack. I really love to see that, and they both look good. Then we have a video coming up of Mean to Me, who was named in honor of our producer, Patty Wolf, our intrepid producer. And she looked pretty good too. Obviously they're just galloping, but she ran away in the stretch from a couple other horses. So that was nice to see. And then the runt in the bunch so far, but it's very early, is Naval Hospital, who is not on the track, but does look very good, like a runway model, like Patty said, as you can see in this walk video. So all of them looking in good health and good spirits and enjoying that Ocala sunshine. So that was really exciting, really brightened my day. And I can't wait to see them, get on the racetrack work tab and then get closer to starts this summer, because we're going to be following them very, very intently. John, just tell us a little bit about your experience going down to see the babies.
What was so much fun this time of year is that they're all still learning. They're all still like little kids. It's like watching, fourth graders out there playing kickball and trying to figure out who's going to be the next great field goal kicker for the Buffalo Bills. Burner account and Change It Jamaica actually train together a lot. They actually have a great temperament towards each other. And they're like kind of like siblings. They like to push each other a little bit, and they have a very good synergistic relationship. And they work really well together. Mean to Me, ironically enough, is a little bit nasty. She's got a little mean streak to her, this filly, where she'll gallop by horses, one of what trainers do usually down in when they're breaking and training horses is that they want horses to be get used to being on the rail with a horse on the outside of them, in between horses on the outside, in front of horses, behind horses, just so that way they kind of get some race like conditions. And Mean to Me is okay on the rail. She's okay definitely on the outside. When she's between horses or behind horses, she has a tendency to try to like strike and bite the horse next to her. So she's got a little nastiness to her. Nice. And Patty, she said it was primarily because she thought when you said Mean to Me that she is supposed to be having those horses say, "Hey, she's being mean to me," as opposed to like, oh, the person saying, "Oh, you were mean to me." So she is taking on that name as like, I'm going to get you before you get me. She's a nasty little cuss sometimes when she's but when she's in the stall, she's totally cool. She's very nice and will nuzzle on you and everything like that. But she's got a little mean streak to her.
And then Naval Hospital, just like Patty.
Spitfire, just like Patty Wolf. Exactly. And then Naval Hospital, they were like, Green, what does this name mean? So I had to explain to all the people who work there, because obviously they weren't listening to our podcast. So first I had to turn them on to our podcast. How dare they? Mm-hmm. And then I had to explain the name. And let me tell you, the joke, Patty, you might want to come up for this so I can see your beautiful expression on this. So I was there holding court. It was me, Mark Cassie, some of his assistant trainers, and a handful of grooms and hot walkers. And as I was telling the story, one of the assistants was actually literally translating it into Spanish. And the joke Naval Hospital doesn't translate well in a different language. They were like this. They didn't get it. They didn't get the joke. They didn't get it at all. And it's not because it's not funny or because they're not intelligent, because they are. It was just that I don't know if belly button and navel is the same, joke in Espanol as it is in English. Can you look that up for us, Patricia?
Okay, so here's the thing. You can stop telling the story. We can stop. We can stop letting people know what an idiot I am. That's the. I think that's the answer. We just cut it off and
defeat the purpose of naming the horse after
my idiot comment. Anyway,
after that joke, and I did say, when somebody said, they asked me like in Spanish, how many years was she? How old was she? And I was like, oh, she was 17. And then they laughed. And they're like, ho, that's so cute.
In fairness, 15.
Yes. Did you know, hey, Joe, did you notice that when we started the show an hour and a half ago, that Patty was like in sweatpants and had her hair all disheveled? And look, now she's like,
No. I just took my fuzzy thing down because I just didn't want to look like a bear.
Is that some makeup? Is that some makeup on Patricia?
No, I took this. There's no makeup per se, but I did put this lip balm on that had color.
Yeah. No, you're
my lips have no color, as I am small white.
Camera ready.
So, can I just explain to the audience? Mean to me, it's what I say when we're not recording. When they speak to me, I go mean to me.
I mean, you can see
why I say that.
You can see how mean John is to Patty.
Exactly.
John in particular.
Well, it's all out of love. It's all because Patty is constantly introducing me as her long lost brother. That's why. Yeah. So I'm allowed to take on that role of the sibling rivalry / picking on each other, and it's all good.
I love it. I've grown to not be able to live without it, to be honest.
Exactly.
When there's expectations, I'm like sad.
It's like oxygen or Robitussin. It's something you need every day to keep yourself going.
You see, the COVID is still here.
Bye.
All right. Yeah, Patty is trying to set the record for the longest case of COVID, I think, in the history of the pandemic. So we hope she feels better. But yeah, like we love seeing the Rail Talk babies. Can't wait to see them develop a little bit more. So thanks for shooting all that content, and hope the fans love it. All right, so that's going to do it for this week's episode of Rail Talk. Hopefully not the last episode, considering the people that we talk shit about during this episode, because next week is the next live episode where Jon Green and his entourage have to come down to dirty old Brooklyn and record right here in my apartment. Can't wait to welcome you guys. We're going to have a great time. It's going to be the third live show, I think, live recorded in one take show after the Fasig show and the Breeders' Cup Plain show. So we're just constantly innovating in terms of new ways to give you this delicious content. So we're looking forward to that. Thanks everybody for watching. Thank you to Dan Tordjman for stopping by. Thank you to our producer, Patty Wolf. Thank you to Anthony LaRocca, Aaliyah LaRocca, and Nathan Wilkinson. Huge congrats again to you guys on the Eclipse Award. We're so excited for you guys Thursday night. Go get that statue. And thanks to the sponsors as well, as always, Fasig-Tipton, the Green Group, and TaylorMade. Appreciate y'all watching. We'll see you next week here from the Palace in Brooklyn.